Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nurse your mind on the go. This video uses AI narration to present our original book analysis.
Oh, cool.
So today we're going to be taking a deep dive into The World, a brief introduction by Richard Haass.
Okay.
You ever heard of it?
I have, yeah.
It's a pretty good book.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, trying to boost your global literacy.
Right.
Because, come on, what happens out there in the world?
Oh, absolutely. It affects us.
Right.
For sure.
We're all connected.
Yeah. That's Haass's main argument, right? Like he says, so many of us, even if we went to college, we don't really get how the world works.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody on the news and you're like, what is even happening?
Totally. Like I remember when... Never mind.
But that's what's so cool about this book is that he kind of lays it all out,
Yeah.
like history, all the different regions of the world, and then he gets into all the big global challenges. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I think he sees the book as like a way to help people understand all that.
Yeah, to become better citizens.
Yeah.
Better voters even.
Right, like more informed, more active in the world.
Exactly. So Haass, he starts off by taking us through this kind of whirlwind tour of history.
Mm-hmm.
And, he starts with World War I.
Okay.
Like all the things that led up to it.
Yeah, and then like between the wars, right? The whole interwar period.
And then he gets into like the Cold War.
Right.
And all the way to like now.
To today, yeah.
Which I thought was really cool how he kind of connected all of that together.
It's such a good way to like frame things.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he has this quote that I really liked.
Okay.
He says, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes."
I love that quote.
It's so true though, right?
It is.
Like think about the Treaty of Versailles.
Oh, after World War I.
Yeah, they wanted to like create peace, right? But some people say it like backfired and actually like helped lead to World War II.
Oh, interesting.
Which is kind of scary to think about. How things that happened way back when.
They can have consequences.
Yeah, they can have consequences even now.
Yeah, for sure.
So then after kind of setting the historical stage, Haass zooms in on these 6 key regions.
Okay.
Europe, East Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow. Covering a lot of ground.
And the Americas.
And
he really emphasizes that like each region has its own like unique story.
Right.
Its own power dynamics, its own challenges.
Well, it's a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
You have to see all the individual pieces to get the whole picture.
Exactly. So let's take Asia, for example.
Okay.
I mean, we've all seen how much the economies have been growing over there, especially like China.
Oh, yeah.
But like, how does that affect the balance of power?
Right. Like not just in Asia, but like globally.
Yeah. And it's not just China. He talks about like the Asian tigers too.
Oh, right. Like South Korea, Taiwan.
Yeah. And Singapore.
Places that have had like crazy economic growth.
And he looks at like what we can learn from them, both good and bad.
It makes sense.
And then there's Europe.
Oh, yeah. Europe's always got something going on.
Always, right? So they've been dealing with all these questions about like integration and identity.
Sure, after the EU expanded, right?
And then the UK leaving and everything.
Oh, yeah. Brexit was a whole thing.
Right, a whole thing.
And then you can't forget about Russia.
Oh, of course not.
Especially with everything going on with Ukraine.
Right. Like the whole geopolitical landscape is totally different now.
It really shows you how connected all these regions are.
Yeah. And it's not always in a good way.
Definitely. And speaking of connections, you know what really drives that point home?
What's that?
Those global challenges.
Oh, right. Right.
Like Haass says, those aren't just some far-off problems, They affect everybody.
Yeah, no matter where you live.
Exactly.
He's talking about things like climate change.
Climate change, definitely.
Terrorism.
Oh, yeah. Terrorism, for sure. And cybersecurity is a big one.
Cybersecurity. Oh, and weapons of mass destruction.
Yep. Those two, plus trade wars, global migration, the whole shebang.
Oh.
And what I think is interesting is he doesn't just, like, describe them. He actually looks at how well the world is working together to solve them.
Yeah, which probably isn't going so well in some cases.
Right. Like, one that really stood out to me was his discussion on cyberspace.
Oh, yeah. Cyberspace. What about it?
Well, it's like such a big part of our lives now.
Totally. I mean, who isn't online these days?
Exactly. But there's like barely any regulation.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And he asked this big question. Can that even last?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah. Like, what are the risks if cyberspace keeps getting more vulnerable?
To attacks, espionage, fake news, all that.
All of that. Yeah. It's kind of scary.
It is.
And it's not just about like the UN or whatever. It's about individual countries, putting the greater good first.
This is a tough ask.
It is, especially now when everyone's getting all nationalistic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So then Haass gets into these 3 big concepts.
Lay it on me.
Sovereignty, self-determination, and the balance of power.
Okay, I'll be honest, those have always been kind of tricky for me.
They're definitely complicated, but Haass breaks them down pretty well.
Oh, good.
So sovereignty basically means that countries have the power to, govern themselves within their own borders.
Okay, makes sense.
But then you bring in self-determination.
Which is what? The right to choose your own government.
Right. But, where does that right start and stop?
Especially when you have, different groups within a country who want to break away.
Oh, yeah, that gets messy fast.
Like Ukraine and Syria, right?
Exactly.
Self-determination can cause a lot of problems when it clashes with sovereignty.
Oh, for sure. It's a huge challenge for everyone.
And then there's the balance of power.
Yeah, Haass calls it like an invisible hand guiding everything.
Oh, interesting.
Historically, whenever that balance shifts, you usually end up with war.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, think about Germany before World War I and II.
Oh.
Or the U.S. and the Soviet Union during the Cold War.
Things were pretty tense back then.
To say the least.
And now we have China rising.
Right. And they're getting more powerful economically and militarily.
Which is shaking things up.
Not just in Asia either, it's global.
So how should the U.S. and everyone else react?
That's the million-dollar question.
It's a tough one, trying to accommodate a new power while protecting your own interests.
Yeah, it's a real balancing act.
So basically, Haass is saying that understanding these three concepts—
sovereignty, self-determination, balance of power.
Yeah, they're key to understanding, the 21st century.
Exactly.
Like a framework for everything.
Conflict, cooperation, the whole 9 yards.
It's like a new way to see the world.
And that brings us back to global literacy.
Full circle.
It's not just knowing facts, it's connecting the dots.
Yeah, seeing how everything fits together.
And most importantly, thinking for yourself.
Yeah, not just believing everything you hear.
Exactly, becoming an informed citizen of the world.
Which is exactly what Haass is going for in this book.
Totally. He wants us to think critically about the world.
And you know what? He asks this crazy question at the end.
What is it?
He says, can we even keep a stable world order?
Ooh.
Or are we headed for more chaos?
Well.
Big questions, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's the point.
To make us think.
Yeah, to talk about these things and realize that we're all part of it.
That we can make a difference.
Exactly. So if you're ready to, take on that challenge.
Okay.
You should definitely check out The World. A brief introduction.
It's a good one.
It's a tough read,
yeah,
but it's so worth it.
You really learn a lot.
It'll make you see the world in a whole new way.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, about all the things we've talked about, can we even keep things stable, or are we heading for more trouble,
And Haass doesn't give us easy answers.
No, he doesn't, but I think that's on purpose,
Yeah, he wants us to figure it out ourselves.
To really consider these questions.
To talk about them, to realize that we all play a part in this.
Exactly, and that's what I like about this book. It makes you realize that we're not just bystanders.
We can actually do something.
We can. And if you're ready to start thinking about all of this book is a great place to begin.
It's a really good overview of everything.
It gives you the tools to understand what's happening in the world.
And to make your own decisions about it.
And that's what global literacy is all about, right?
Absolutely.
Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This video uses AI narration to present our original book analysis.
Oh, cool.
So if you're interested in learning more about all this, I highly recommend checking out The World, A Brief Introduction.
It's a good one.
It is. It's challenging,
yeah,
but it's definitely worth the read.
You can find a link to buy it in the description below.
And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe to the Mindful Moments channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
We've got more great books coming your way.
We do, so thanks for joining us on this one.
Yeah, thanks everyone.